Hi, happy Thursday. This is Debbie at Evolved Love Connections, and we are so excited today to have with us James Stevenson, who is the originator and creator of Awaken as Love. James, welcome, welcome, welcome. James is in Scotland at the moment. He bops around the world doing fabulous work. And let's talk to James. James, hi, welcome.
Hey, hi, thank you. Well, I'm
Yes.
excited to be on Evolve Love Connections, and I love that you've created this. Um, so even though I'm running around a bit busy, it felt really important to make the time and to dive on and connect into what you're establishing here. So hello from Scotland.
So I just finished James' week-long deep dive called Awaken as Love. And wow, I came home awakened as love. It was just a profound experience for me. And James, tell us a little bit about you first before we go into our program.
Okay, so yeah, I come from a background of tantra and biodanza. So I created tantra festivals all across the world. So we have those kind of 5 to 6 day events where people come in, they get a taste of different teachers, different workshops, and it's a nice way to kind of put the foot in a little bit before deciding to dive deeper into one area.
Mm-hmm. What is
Along with that,
what is biodanza? People may not know what that is.
oh yeah, biodanza is an incredible system. So it was created by kind of this genius, Rolando Toro. He was working in universities in the 60s, and he was friends with Albert Hoffman. So for those who don't know, this was the person who stumbled upon LSD. He created it in his laboratory and didn't realize what he'd done, ingested some, I think by mistake, and went on this bicycle ride. So this was the first psychedelic experience as he was going home. Didn't quite know what was happening, but realized that something had happened. So the first trip was him cycling on his bike along these country lanes, and Rolando Toro was good friends with him. And at that point, it's coming back into fashion now. At that point, it was possible to work with these things in a clinical setting and the universities. And he was one of the few people who was actually authorized to be able to use this in university settings. So he had this psycho theater thing that he'd set up around it using LSD and art. And when all that became illegal, he realized you could actually create the same effect. You could permeate deep into someone's being using music and archetypal movements instead. And so that's the origins of biodanza, was actually how do we get beyond the normal kind of character armor that we wear in everyday life and permeate that through music, through exercises, through touch, through caress, to open our soul up to all of the possibilities that our genetics have for living a full and embodied life. So that's a synopsis of biodanza. It uses music, it uses dance, but it's not the same as 5 rhythms or ecstatic dance. It's a very deep tantric integrated modality, which takes years and years to study, to learn to teach this.
Well, I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed the movement. Was so rich and so embodying, and just every day, just moving our bodies was I loved it. It's like I came home wanting to move more. I came home and I danced for 4 hours that night.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, I came home awakened as love.
Perfect.
Yes. So you got involved, you started with that, with the tantra and the tantra festivals and biodanza. And
Yeah.
and where did it go from there?
So then I actually did a lot of training in Vision Quest and some shamanic modalities, which is basically taking people out to the land and having that time in nature where we're not distracted by the mobile phone, we're not distracted by the normal things that keep us kind of disconnected, kind of in a little bubble where we don't really stop and feel like, actually, what are the things that are important in my life? And where are the secret teachings that are coming to me all the time around me, but I'm too in my own head to be able to even hear them? So we even take away the distraction of food in that. So there's a fasting element to it where anything that's been kind of held in the body, any traumas and things, have a chance to resurface because the body needs that energy for food. Because we're not eating, it needs that energy. And so we can't hold on to our stuff anymore. We can't hold on to our shit, if it's okay to say that word. We noticed that last week. It was a bit of a catchphrase.
Oh yes, it was quite filled.
We'll let that just be our inner joke.
Yeah, inside joke. You just got to let that shit go.
Exactly.
So you developed. So you were in these trainings for Vision Quest and shamanic ritual, and wove that into the tantra.
Yeah, so I've been weaving that in for quite a while, and Awaken As Love kind of sits on the shoulders of giants. It's all the best things that I've done over the years, all the trainings, all the information, and so it's not just being created kind of magically out of thin air. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of neuroscience, a lot of things informing it in the background, and so this was kind of like a masterpiece of how all those things fit together. To create integration, to create more harmony, more awakening, and more love.
So the science part of it was really interesting for me because it blended the spirituality and the science and the tantra and all of it into one, and it allowed for my science brain to really grasp and connect with my ethereal brain, so to speak, and pull it down and ground it into me, embodying it. So why don't you, can we talk a little bit about the integral theory and the spiral dynamics and all that fun part of your training?
Yes. So this is something that I find really beautiful. It's a theory which has been described as a theory of everything. And it's a little bit of a meta theory. So it helps, if you've done different work in different areas, it helps you to understand how all that hangs together. So maybe you've done some energy work in Reiki, or you've done a tantra training, and it helps you to see, okay, this is what's been focused on here, that we're working with states in this, or this is maybe a growth path. This is helping people's personal development. And so for myself, I feel like it helped to make sense of the world and everything that I'm doing in it. It has been described as kind of like downloading a new operating system, a brain 2.0. Once it just starts to land, and it takes a while to integrate it, then it really helps to change the way you see and understand the world as well as yourself. So it was created by Ken Wilber, and again, not out of thin air. There's been movements towards this for centuries. Aurobindo at the start of this century, or the last century. I'm forgetting that we're in
the new century.
What time? Who's the president? Yeah. So the beginning of the last century, was a fantastic person he was an Indian, and he was weaving the spiritual traditions. But he was also educated at Oxford, and kind of seeing how the East and West start to come together. And it's as you were saying, it's an integrative system. So it looks at your inner reality, but it also looks at outer reality. It looks at science. It looks at how these things do have connections and how there can be valid truths in multiple different areas. So we don't just reduce life to um, to one aspect of reality. And so by not reducing it, we become more holistic. And that's a beautiful thing. It helps you to expand and to be more full in your practice and your work and everything you're doing. And one of the key distinctions that I loved from it was the difference between waking up, the traditional enlightenment, traditional kind of spiritual path, and growing up, which is kind of more recent. Yeah. And
That's huge.
That's huge. And it starts to make sense of things, that actually we can wake up through states, we can become more aware of who we are. It doesn't necessarily mean that we grow up. That's a different process, and that's the different thing you need to do. And that maturity is important, because we've seen the scandals around spiritual teachers, and in many areas where they are very enlightened, they have something very strong to transmit, and yet the lens in which it's interpreted and how they act upon that in the world might be at a very low level of development. And so it's really to see how it's important to develop all aspects of your being.
Sure. That's like the doctor that doesn't know how to pay his bills. It's like different aspects of, I'm not emotionally mature, but I am intellectually mature. So there's different levels, different stages and growth patterns for every part of your being, so to speak.
Multiple intelligences. And right. I think in general, we're becoming more aware of that. We used to focus just on intellect, and that was what got measured in schools and universities. And now we're seeing, well, it's a lot more to it than just that. So it's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just really loved the processes that you had. Some of them were so profound to help you look at these different stages of being. And where did you develop all these amazing rituals and processes? Did they come from other teachings? Were they evolved by you? It's just, it made everything stick. I mean, the teaching is the teaching, right? But the processes that you went through and the exercises that we did were just really such a beautiful way to embody this entire program.
Oh, thank you. Well, so some have been kind of developed from other things that I've picked up in the past, but a lot of it actually was my passion to help embody integral theory, because it's a beautiful, ingenious system, and yet a lot of people who are very into this can get kind of stuck in their heads. So it's a theory, but if it's not lived, it doesn't really mean much. It's just another nice way to look at the world. So coming from a background in biodanza, which is all about embodiment, and also tantra, which also embodies a lot, really made me get creative and to see how can we actually use the neuroscience, how can we actually use some of these things to help it become a lived experience. And I think that's really important, that we can really live this experience and then start to notice it and incorporate it into our lives, into our daily routines.
Well, I have been in integration since I left you. It's like, wow. People were asking me, okay, so tell me about this training. And I said, okay, it was, wow, dive. Oh, really? We're going there? Dive. Okay. All right. Okay. This is good. Okay. No, really? They're going, wow. It's like, that's how I'm describing it, because it was so rich for me. And I know Dave just had an amazing experience as well. And the connections that we made while we were there, and it's like I fell in love with every single person in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the container that you build is just so beautiful. that everyone feels so safe to just dive in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And kudos to the group as well. I mean, this last training, I often say like most of the training lands after when you come home, because it is quite rich, and we have a guidebook and we have other things to help to then integrate it, because people don't know the transformation that they've been through until they get back to that daily life. But I was impressed with this group. Actually, I felt so much for it actually landing in the moment. And I agree with you with that sense of falling in love, that it's like you go deeper in 1 week and more intimate and more mask off than you can be with people that you've known for 10 years. And yeah, and that's really special. So I have that same sense of family, that we're a family now.
We are a family. I mean, my small group is still chatting every day.
Oh, great.
We are. It's wonderful. So that is stage one. Stage one, Awaken as Love, is kind of your first dive into it. So you also have a stage two training and a facilitator training in addition to these Tantra festivals that you do all over. So tell me what happens in stage two.
So kind of stage one is setting the foundation for everything. We learn the integral map. It's called the Ackwell map. And we learn kind of like the common languaging. Stage two is kind of like that place where it goes off the map. So this dives even deeper into the mystery. It's like that kind of place. There'll be dragons that used to be in those old charts. And this is a real death and rebirth journey. So it's really kind of getting under the conditioning that we don't even realize that we have, the unconscious motivations, unconscious use of our energy, and to really connect to our soul and to really see what's true. So it's very much masks off. It's taking off that mask of the persona and seeing like, so what lies underneath that, and how can we, if we do need to wear masks, how can we do it consciously? So I mean, we do need to wear masks in day-to-day life in society, but how can we play with it rather than it being the mask running us? We have a mask, and we run the mask, and we get to be creative with it. So first you need to realize that you're wearing a mask for that to happen.
Nice. And when is your next, well, we'll talk about when is your next trainings, because I want to go to level 2 too. So next week you are starting a facilitator training in Poland.
Yeah. So this is for those who've done stage one already, and maybe some teachers in their own right, but they're wanting to step into being more sangha, be with more people who are offering this type of work, and to actually step into faculty. So we'll be going through a very strong process of initiating people into their kind of teacher archetype, facilitator archetype. So they are learning how to now hold that space for other people. And so it's a really exciting time for Awaken As Love. So we've had quite a small team up till now, and it's just expanding exponentially as the trainings are being called for all across the planet. So
it's amazing. So how many people do you have in your facilitator training?
So we've got 13 new teachers.
Wow.
Are being birthed next week.
That is so incredible.
Yeah. So we're excited for that, and obviously they will be going through a learning process and apprenticing as time goes on. But they'll be stepping more and more into the power and helping to co-facilitate under the wings of a kind of lead who really knows the program really well. They'll be stepping into their power doing that. So very exciting.
Amazing. That's so amazing. So do you produce Tantra festivals all over the world?
Yeah. So so we have them I did the original one in India for about 8 years. So that was like birthplace of Tantra. And from that, we had California, we had Portugal, Holland, we had dance festivals. I'm sure I'm missing one out. Oh, we've got plans for one in Tulum and one in Miami next as well. So they're
Nice.
growing. Yeah.
Nice. And so when is the next one in California? Because I know a lot of my listeners are here in California.
So the next one's going to be the 21st to the 25th September. So that's in Camp High Sierra. It's right beside the Sequoia National Park. So it's a really beautiful place to be. Yeah.
Ah, what a beautiful, I know we're planning to be there. Yes, we're really excited, really excited. And then you're coming back down to Southern California to do some work with us, right?
Yeah. So that's going to be exciting. We have a training up there after the festival. That's with
Mhm.
Monique Darling and Eugene Headland, and that's going to be looking into magic and shamanism and some fun things there.
I saw that. Might I might sneak into that one too.
You're most welcome. We're going to be doing Awaken As Love in San Diego after that. But in between those, we're planning about 4 days of events hosted by yourself
At the Pleasure
and
Palace.
at the Pleasure Palace. So we're looking forward to that. And I think we haven't fully decided what they're all going to be, but we had real interest to do something for couples actually. So that would be really exciting.
We love the couples work. That Dave and I just really love helping couples with their intimacy and communication and just really diving into pleasure and understanding of each other. And I'm really excited to have you guys here to do that.
Yeah.
So you'll be bringing with you Monique Darling and Peter Peterson and Taina Ixchel, who is Power Priestess. So we will have quite the team here in October, and there will be, lots more going on about that. But tell us what your vision is for the next year or so. What does James see?
Well, one of the things that feels important is the spreading of Awaken As Love. Like that, this really feel like this is a very, it's part of a new level of consciousness that's beginning to come on the planet. It's already on the planet actually. It's called integral, and a lot of the more new age spirituality was being taught from the stage before that, which was the postmodern. It was the stage that rejected modernism and it was looking for alternatives, which had some fantastic things inside of it. It was very high on equality, but there was also some shadows in it, and it didn't really integrate some of the previous stages, if at all, but not very well. So integral is the next one, which we're really helping to, along with other people working with integral systems, to really spread into the mainstream. They say if we can get about 10% of the population to that integral stage or integral level of consciousness, then that's the critical mass that's needed to then take the rest with it. There's this tipping point, and a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the world today really won't be solved by the modern structure, which is creating some of them. It's not going to be solved by the postmodern, which is very much in reaction to it, and it's needing that higher vision and that higher global overview to be able to start addressing them, and that's where I believe integral starts to come in. So I think it's going to be a really important one over the next decade or so for humanity to continue on as a species. We're really,
Well, it's just looking at the whole
yeah,
and how what every single person on this planet does affects the whole.
yeah,
And trying to get the big business and big pharma and trying to move integral into that level that will really start making some shifts and changes for the better for everything.
yeah. I think it's important, and one of the keys in that you mentioned briefly spiral dynamics, which we look at, which is a great thing to go and research. There's beautiful videos online that actually from the integral perspective, you're able to speak and understand people and situations that are at different levels of the spiral. And so one of the main things is that these different stages are at war. There's a cultural war between these different stages, each one believing that their perspective on the world is right. And so when you're able to speak in a way that each stage can understand, and to see the ways that you can gradually help it grow, not skipping a stage, but to kind of expand its view, that really starts to make a difference. So things like the war in Ukraine, things like climate change, things like left-right politics or coronavirus restrictions, all of these things, instead of creating more polarization and more separation, we're able to start helping people to come together and actually understand underneath it we're human, and like, how can we work together even if we have slightly different perspectives? And for me, that's maturity.
Absolutely, that's growing up as well. Yeah, yeah, it's just beautiful, and I love the richness of this program. The manual was like 55 pages long.
Yeah.
It's like, this is daunting stuff, right? And you read it, and it's so rich that it's like, oh, I don't understand this at all. So I really appreciated the way that you took that manual and put us basically on the map and had us walk through it to experience what the different stages were and how it all tied together. And just brilliant.
Thank you. And I heard this training someone say, actually best is don't read the manual before the training, read it afterwards. And we send it out to people in advance for those that like to do it, but it can seem a bit daunting. And again, I think it's that multiple lines of intelligence that's going to be very cognitive, very intellectual, but when you've actually experienced it in your body in a way that makes sense, then it's much easier to understand afterwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The embodiment piece of it was just the one thing that pulled it all together for me. So yeah, it was profound training, and I really appreciated it.
Oh,
So
thank you.
it's still landing in me. So, I know I came home and I went out that evening to see a friend's band, and everybody that I saw was like, wow, what happened to you?
I think we
It's
were all
like,
glowing by the end of it.
it's like I embodied so much, and I came home with a whole new understanding and an allowing of who I am truly, to really emerge at just a much deeper level and to be good with it. It's like, nope, this is who I am. I am coming home, and I am going to express myself in a much different space than I did 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's beautiful. I was about to ask you, like, what are the insights, what things have landed since that training? You kind of been saying a bit already, but
Yes, I mean, I'm shifting ancestral dynamics, which is big, and that I had some beautiful things come in on my vision quest, nature walk. I had spirit come in, I had beloveds on the other side come in and talk to me, and that was huge. I am letting go of the need to be caretaker for many, because I during one of the exercises, I had this embodiment, this personality come out, that this exercise that you did, it was just amazing. And one of the personalities that showed up was this 10,000-year-old woman, and it was like really tired from holding everything for everybody. It's like,
Wow.
wow.
And then,
So that was wild. And then another one came out that was this 400-year-old man named Tony who gets shit done, which is so me. And they were like battling for space inside me. It's like, wow, there's no room for me. And then this third personality came out, and it was an 8-year-old girl that popped up through the middle and said, I just want to play. I'm taking over.
I love that. So you're gonna have more space for play now in your life.
More space for play, and just letting go the need to do anything and to just be. And while I was writing this in my journal out in the middle of the forest, as I finished writing B and put my pen down, a bee landed on my journal. So, you can't make this stuff up. It's like,
Oh
okay,
no.
all right, I see that. So so yeah, I'm coming home with some really beautiful gifts to allow me to expand, and also know, because we considered doing the training, and Dave and I decided that, we're really good at holding space here at the Pleasure Palace for teachers like you to come in and do your magic. So we're not going to go down the facilitation track, but we just really know now that our place here is to hold space for others. I mean, there was a beautiful tree that came out, that was on my walk. It was an old oak tree, just starting to leaf out. And there were these tender green vines that were coming up and wrapping around the branches of this tree. And it kind of represented to me, like, yes, we are the wisdom keepers, right? We are the old wisdom keepers. And these new vines are these beautiful teachers that are coming up and supporting us, and we are supporting them. And so that's the beautiful image that came across. It's like, all I need to do is support these young, beautiful teachers that are coming up and doing the work. And we just need to have the space.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So there was several beautiful things that came out of this training.
And it's so important. I love that you're holding space for that in San Diego, that there is that place to land these teachers, to land this thing, to pass it into that community. And it's such an important role, I feel. So, I mean, not everyone's gift or mission is to facilitate. It's the organizers, all the people that are making all those things happen in the background that are super important.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're excited to have you guys here in the fall, and we're excited for all of the things that you have coming up. You're also doing a tantra festival in Portugal, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the next tantra festival. So that's at a beautiful center called Awakeland in the south. It's in the hillsides where they used to have Sufis performing all the rituals in that area. So the land is really imbued with this incredible kind of Sufi magic. You can feel it. There's lakes that you can swim naked, but this is a fantastic summer festival. So it's like a really great celebration of summer, and we have some fantastic teachers that are kind of guiding us on a bit of a journey. So
wonderful. And that's the end of June, is it? That's June?
The start of June. So we've got the Portugal festival. There's another one I'm teaching at, I'm not organizing, in Latvia, right before the end of May. And then after the Portugal festival, we dive, for those ready to go deeper, into the stage 1, which you just went through. And so that's normally quite a nice, it's a big group kind of going into that together after the festival. So
fabulous. So if somebody was interested, would you tell them to go to a tantra festival first to check out all the possibilities?
It's a really good way. It's a good way to meet people. It's a good way. There's possibilities. Not at the one in Portugal, but in Holland, we have another one in August. There's You can actually come and volunteer and be part of the team. You can attend all the workshops, but you chop some vegetables or you help move some mattresses, you get a discounted price. And that's a kind of really fun way to meet other people. If you're coming by yourself, you're already part of a team, you get to know people. Even in the festivals, we have these sharing groups where you're kind of held each morning, you meet the same 4 or 5 people, and that creates an anchor point through the festival. So it's a great way to explore the whole range and the possibilities. For those who are a little bit more introverted, sometimes the trainings are better because you're with a smaller group, you're going on a deeper dive, and you're held more individually by myself and the other teachers. So it really depends on people's personality and what they're looking for, but both are really great options.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, gosh, I am so grateful that you could jump online with me after jumping all around the world. Is there anything else? We will put your Awaken As Love website in the tagline here, and definitely move people towards that to get more information from you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we jump off today?
You know what? Why don't we? Because we're doing a couples thing. We're planting a seed for that. Would you be open for like sharing a very quick snippet of something we might teach there, like a really quick communication tool? So your viewers
Sure.
do you have time for that?
I do. Sure. Yeah. What are our favorite communication tools? I love check-ins. I love our little weekly check-in. Dave and I sit down and just really dive in. It's an intentional check-in, so we make time for it. We sit down and share with each other, eye gazing, and then really, how can I support you this week? What have you got going on? Some appreciations for things that have happened in the last week, that like, I really appreciated you making dinner for us last night. That was beautiful. And or any withhelds. It's like, a few days ago when I snapped at you, I was, I'm really sorry, but this was happening, and I want to apologize. Or it's a chance to clear the air. It's a chance to check in with each other and just really ask, how can we support each other this week? And it may get juicy, it may not. It may be 5 minutes, it may be an hour and a half. But that is one of the beautiful tools that we use on a regular basis.
I love that, and I think that's palpable. We can see between yourself and Dave. We can really feel that kind of trust and acceptance and that deep relationship you have, which you all see. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You create that together in your practice and your check-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little one, which is I'd like to share the routine for it, actually, so people can take it home and put it in their pocket already.
Sure.
And this is when we get into conflict with other people and we get kind of so-called triggered, then what's happening there is got to do with the fact that we've got essentially 3 brains. We've got the outer cortex, which is very logical and it's conditioned by society. And it's kind of more recent one in evolutionary terms. There's an inner brain, which is all to do with homeostasis in the body and emotions and feelings. And then there's an older brain, the reptilian one, which is mainly concerned with survival. And what often happens when we get into conversations where we start talking over each other and start raising our voice and not really hearing, is that one of those brains is feeling like that it's not being seen, or it's not having its needs met in some way. So and when that happens, blood drains out of our body. We go into fight or flight, and we start to say kind of stupid things, or start to do things that we wouldn't normally do when we're feeling resourced and relaxed. So, for us to understand it, the reptilian survival brain wants to know that we exist. It wants to know that it exists. And so if you do the simple thing after someone has spoken to take turns is to repeat back what they have said. It already starts to soothe that brain. It doesn't have to shout louder. It doesn't need to scream and smash plates. It's like, okay, in a very biological level, it's like, I'm getting the feedback, I exist, I can relax.
Yes.
The midbrain wants to be felt and understood emotionally. And so when you can reflect back, well, gosh, if I was in that situation, that might make me feel sad or angry or whatever emotion. That one begins to soothe already. And then finally, the outer cortex wants to know that it logically makes sense. So when we can repeat back what someone has said, understand or empathize with the feelings that might be there, and also just, even if it doesn't, we don't agree with it, we can logically see how that might make sense from their perspective. And so even just naming that and saying how, yeah, I can see from the situations you've had why you might think this or why that might be the case for you, that one starts to relax. The whole being already starts to feel heard in some way. And we come out of that kind of fight or flight. And then from that place, we can resolve differences, we can resolve conflict. And so it's super simple tool, just using those three things. But it's a masterpiece for relationships, especially after the honeymoon phase is kind of dissolved and we come into the power struggle, then it's a really key one for that. So
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to do some communication exercises with couples, and maybe another thing that we love to do here is our sensual dinner parties, maybe blindfolded dinner parties where the sensory dinner parties are beautiful. So,
I love it. Yeah, and it's one of the main things in Tantra. We have like different ways in which, according to the Vedas, that the world is formed, and the five senses are really key, important ones. So to play with those is really to start to play with Tantra.
Yeah. So we'll create some really fun, juicy things for October. So
Great.
yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see you there. And yeah, thank you for inviting me on today. It's been beautiful to see you and to reconnect, and after we've had that great time together. So
it was amazing. It was truly amazing. And I am so grateful for you and for your beautiful essence and your wisdom and expression in this world. It really touched me, and I think you are just making a big difference in bringing this world, up-leveling this world to a new understanding, a new expression. And thank you.
thank you. Beautiful.
All right, we're going to end this. I'm going to stop the recording, and thank you so much for joining us on this Evolved Love Connections broadcast. And we hope to see you soon.